So last month, I reported that the Wellington market was unbelievably hot and, in fact, had recorded the highest 12-month price growth ever seen since the numbers started, which from memory was something like 15 years. And this month, we just beat last month's 12-month result. That's according to the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand House Price Index, which is the most reliable kind of gauge as to what's happening to underlying property values, as opposed to the median sale price, which of course can be influenced quite heavily by the mix of properties that sold that month. So if there was a whole lot of high-end properties, then that would drag the median up. If there was a whole lot of low-end properties, then that would tend to the median would tend to be a bit lower. But house price index by Real Estate Institute, which is a stratified mean of each of the 10 percentiles, is a pretty damn reliable indicator, and that is showing us the highest the highest 12-month growth in Wellington for a second 12-month period in a row, or a second month in a row. So pretty amazing. And there you have the numbers in terms of the median sale price, and you can see 890,000 February 2021 versus 718 in February 2020, up 24%. Now that is not as big a jump, I don't believe, as we saw in January 20 to January 21 on the median sale price basis, even though, as you can see, the January number was quite a lot lower than we were up in February, and even lower than we were in December. But as I mentioned last time, the January numbers do behave a bit strangely. So it's not all that surprising that the 12-month movement of 24% is less than we saw back in January, even though the price jump from January to February itself was almost 100,000. So go figure that one out. Anyway, nonetheless, still big price rises happening. And you can see here, from in the last 4 months, the median sale price has been hovering around that 800,000 mark, and then we've jumped almost up to 900,000 in February. But again, remember, it's the median. It's just a month's results, so one month does not make a trend. But you can see that over the last 10 months or so, it certainly has been a trend, and that trend is upwards. So yeah, jump in any time. And here is a look again at the house price index. This is the Real Estate Institute index. I think most commentators and economists and analysts would agree this is the most reliable measure of underlying price growth. And so you can see here for New Zealand on a whole, 21.5% over the last 12 months. New Zealand excluding Auckland 22, Auckland 21, Wellington 29%. That number there was 26% as of January last month, January to January, but February to February, it's even higher at 29%. So yeah, staggering result. So yes, highest ever 12-month rise for Wellington since the series began, for the second month in a row. So pretty extraordinary times, and massive price growth we're seeing, making everyone's eyes water. How many new listings are we seeing for the month? So this is showing 779 for February 2021 versus 802 for February 2020. So we are slightly down, not by very much, but ever so slightly down on last February. And you can see here that over the last 6 months, we have, on a 6-month moving average basis, over the last few months, we have been over the 600 mark, which is normal for Wellington. You see, from 2015 all the way through here to the end of 2019, we spent the whole time over 600. And then we've spent some time since lockdown, as the market's really tightened up again, and we've seen stock levels going down. The number of new listings coming on has decreased a little bit, but it isn't by 50%. Everyone is out there saying there's no supply, there's no supply. which is correct, but it's not. There's no supply because there are no listings coming on. There is a small reduction in the number of new listings coming on, as you can see here, compared to previously, but it's not a massive reduction by half. So the fact that we've got very few listings on Trade Me is not because nothing is coming to the market for sale. So yeah, broadly speaking, around about the same number of listings in February as February last year, down ever so slightly at 3%. But the number of sales is actually down by 8%. And so this is interesting. You can see going way back to 2000 and end of 2015, start of 2016 is when the boom started, and we saw the number of sales coming upwards over 6-month average, and then over time it slowly eroded ever so slowly. I mean, around here for a few years we saw pretty even levels, pretty even consistent numbers of sales on a 6-month to 6-month basis. And then after lockdown we saw a dip in the number of sales. Obviously you can't sell property when we're in lockdown, and then we've recovered to actually the strongest number of sales we've seen in a number of years. Maybe that was just catch-up buying though, from people who couldn't purchase during lockdown or felt uncertain about purchasing when we came out of lockdown and into level 3. And now we are back. The last couple of months we are seeing levels around that 700 per month on a 6-month moving average basis, which is pretty consistent with what we've seen for sort of 4 years or so, going back to middle of 2017. So maybe that big boom in the number of listings was simply just catch up, and now we're heading back to normal times again in terms of numbers. How long is it taking to sell? Again, pretty stable, down ever so slightly by 1 day, 29 days versus 30 days, so down by 1 day or 3%. As you can see again by this the red line here, which is the 6-month moving average. When the boom started in 2016, the number of days it took to sell dropped right down here, down to sort of middle to high 20 days, and then slowly increased a little bit over time. And then since lockdown, it's kind of reduced again, and it seems to have stabilized on the 6-month basis, at least, in that high 20s range. So yeah, we'll see where it goes to from here. But on the whole, that is still a strong result. It's below the long-term average, and as you can see there, it's the lowest we've seen on a 6-month moving average basis for a few years now. I mean, we'd have to go back to sort of end of 2017 or 2017 where we saw a figure that low. So it's been higher than that for a number of years until recently. So yeah, just more signs that the market has been very, very strong indeed. Inventory, how many weeks worth of supply have we seen? So this is interesting. I mean, for 4 months in a row, August, September, October, November, we saw 6 weeks worth of supply. It had been a while since we'd seen levels at that low. Then we fell right down to 4 weeks, which is unbelievable. Never seen it that low, and that was in December last year. Then January and February, both at 7 weeks worth of supply. So at 7 weeks worth of supply, we're seeing more supply on an inventory level basis than we've seen for about 6 months or so. Prior to that, it was more, but for the last 6 months or so, it's as high as it's been at 7 weeks. But compared to February last year, at 12 weeks, it's a significant reduction, 5 weeks less or 42%. February, of course, tends to be when you get a bunch of stock coming to the market. It's the summer rush. It's the busiest month of the year, typically. And so that was the case, or that was sort of reflective of in February 2020 at 12 weeks worth of supply. You had a whole lot of new supply come on. In February 2021, it did not jump in the same way it did back in February 2020. So I'm just trying to see if I can see. No, I can't see the individual results there. But yeah, so it's an increase on December's incredibly low result. But certainly it's a big decrease compared to February a year ago. And again, you can see that 6-month moving average the inventory level has just absolutely plummeted away since we came out of lockdown, and at an average over the last 6 months of about 6 weeks, it is the lowest it's been since way back in the end of 2016, and it was only down there below 6 weeks on a 6-month moving average for a handful of months. And maybe that'll be the case here too. Maybe it's only just touched that 6 week average, and it will start to increase from here. But who can tell? Number of Trade Me listings. This is as of, I think it was yesterday or the day before that I pulled this data. So 1,126 listings on Trade Me in Wellington as of a couple of days ago in March 2021 versus 1,610 in March 2020. So again, just continuing on with the trend that we've seen over the last 6 months or so, or longer than that, is just the levels have been falling, as you can see by the blue bars there, consistently falling down, with a bit of a blip there in November of last year with a bit of a spring rush. And in March now, when it's typically summer peak season, we have not seen a big increase in listings at all. So definitely that's a worry for buyers, that's part of the reason, or helps explain why prices continue to go up, because the supply out there is very low. And in fact, if I look back to March 2019, the numbers were almost sort of about 60% more or something like that. So where are we here? There's March 2019, and you can see up there, so it's over 2,000, and at the moment we're at 1,100, or just over 1,100. So almost twice the level of supply on Trade Me in March 2019 as we're seeing now in March 2021. So it sure is. We sure are short on gross supply volumes. So in summary, for the second month in a row, we've seen the highest 12-month house price index growth for Wellington for a second month in a row. That is a huge growth at 29%. So the prices have been going up so fast over the last 12 months or so, and in fact 15% of that, or thereabouts, I believe, took place in the last 4 months of last year alone. September, October, November, December made up for about half of that growth. New listings are about the same level as we were seeing a year ago. Sales volumes also very similar level as of a year ago, down ever so slightly. Duration to sell, similarly, very similar level to last year in the same month, 1 day less in February 2021 versus 2020. So it's low duration to sell. It doesn't take long to sell a property, and it's stable, low and stable. Inventory levels are down versus, sorry, that says versus January 2020, should say versus February 2020. But February, the same level as January 2020, which was significantly over what we saw in the last 4 months or so of last year. Stock levels on Trade Me remain extremely low, and in summary, the market is very, very competitive, difficult for buyers, great for sellers. The same summary line I've been using for 2 or 3 months now. But I did want to finish off today by posing this question. We are seeing a market that really is quite unprecedented. How long can this market last? At the moment, there is no real sign, certainly no enduring signs, that this market is coming to an end, but it 100% will come to an end. We can 100% say that with certainty. It's going to come to an end. Every bull market finishes and every bear market finishes. But when? When is this going to happen? It's been going now, the bull market has been going for 5.5 years, exceptionally strong over the last 12 months since lockdown. But when is the slow market going to happen? And obviously, I don't know. But I thought some analysis from Tony Alexander might be useful, and, well, I don't know about useful, but certainly interesting. And here, I don't know if you're aware, some of you may be, and some of you might not be, that he conducts various surveys each month on a regular basis, where he asks real estate agents, he asks just general recipients of his newsletters, and he asks mortgage brokers and so on, various questions to try and get some sort of gauge on how the market is feeling at the front line. It's trying to get ahead of the curve to sort of get a sense of what's happening, what's going to happen in the near future, as evidenced by the actual numbers. So if we look at this first graph on the left-hand side, it says, do you plan spending more on home renovations over the next 6 months? Are you spending money on your house? For many months, it was going up. More people were going to spend money on their houses. Over the last few months, it's plateaued. So that sort of suggests that, you know, we have seen the peak of people investing in their homes personally. The next one, also showing a growth and then a plateau, is the percentage of agents reporting that their market is a seller's market. And this is overall across New Zealand. So the number of agents that were saying, yes, this is a seller's market, it was net increasing since lockdown until to about October of last year, and since then it has been level. So we're still seeing 75% of agents saying it's a seller's market, but that number has stopped growing. So perhaps the next trend is maybe it will come down, who knows? But it certainly has not, it has stopped increasing now. Are investors bringing more or fewer properties to the market than 3 months ago? So is there a change in investor activity in terms of listing their investment properties? So what this was showing is that the number of investors that were bringing more properties to the market was net negative. In other words, fewer investors were being noticed bringing properties to the market as we headed into winter last year. Then it stayed low like this with a blip in September, still very negative. Investors are not, they're bringing less properties to the market. And that has seriously turned around in the last 3 or 4 months or so, from a net negative 15% of agents to a net positive 5%. So there are now more agents around the country saying investors are bringing more properties to the market than agents are saying investors are bringing less properties to the market. Only by 5%, but it's a trend that's interesting here. It's gone from definitely negative, investors are bringing fewer properties to the market, to investors have started bringing more properties to the market. So it'll be interesting to see how that trends, and if we do see a bunch more properties on the market. I mean, my observation is that I have not noticed personally as an agent a lot more investors bringing properties to the market, but I have seen investment type properties hitting the Wellington market a little bit more than previously, but maybe that's just because we're seeing a typical increase in listings in February, don't know. And then the last one here is the net percentage planning to spend more on an investment property. So this is a gauge of buyers planning to invest money in investment property, and you can see there that the net result has been positive for the last 8 months or 9 months or so. More people are planning to invest in investment property than not invest in investment property. And that trend was increasing until the end of last year. And then since the end of last year, in February and then March, that result is decreasing down and heading towards zero. So it's heading towards more of a situation where, no, you got just as many people saying, I'm planning to buy an investment property, as people who are saying, no, I'm planning to divest in investment property. So again, we're seeing across all 4 of those graphs there, a bit of a change in the trend. It's no longer going up, it's plateauing, or it's no longer going down, it's no longer negative, it's positive. Over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 months, the pattern has been slightly different. So are these early signs that the market is maybe going to cool down soon? Who knows? I mean, one thing that seems very likely to happen is that at some point, globally, COVID will come under control. People will again regain confidence in travelling overseas. Borders will open back up again, and people with the travel bug will be bursting to get back out there, and so they'll be spending a lot of money on international travel, and so perhaps they won't have the same amount of money to invest in new investment property, to invest in upgrading their home, to invest in going from upgrading, not upgrading their home, but upgrading to the next home. So maybe I think we might possibly see a slowing down of this sort of activity as people's attention again moves towards yes, time to travel again and forget about the house for a year or two. But yeah, as I say, who knows when this market is going to turn. In the meantime, it is very hot out there.